Hi, everyone. Welcome to Love Wrestling Interviews. My name is Zach Ralph, and I am thrilled to welcome my guest today. The IWS World Championship is a storied Montreal title that's been held by the likes of Sexy Eddie, Green Phantom, Speedball Mike Bailey, PCP Manny, PCO, Kevin Steen, El Generico. I could go on, but I am joined by the current and first ever woman to hold the IWS World Championship, the sweetest pea, Kristara. Kristara, congratulations and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. This is awesome. And it's not the only thing I need to actually congratulate you on, because you came number 68 on the PWI 250 this year, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of things going on lately. I'm just like, okay, take it easy, but it's been a very cool month.
A lot of momentum. What's next? Are you going to run for office or something?
I think luck is on my side, so maybe I should consider it. Like, some people were telling me to go buy some lottery tickets or something. I don't want anything, but maybe now's the time.
Did you notice that you're actually the highest ranking Canadian on the PWI 250?
Yeah, that was very crazy to me, because last year, like, I was 223 and I was just like happy to make it. I was like surprised I made it. So I was like, this year I was like, okay, let's just try to, do as good as you did last year. You never want to do worse than your second year. Now that I'm in my third year, I was like, okay, I think I'll make it for sure this time. But to be like the highest ranking Canadian, because there's so many great Canadian women's wrestlers, that was like a pretty big honor.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to speak to that, and I'm not looking to disparage Pro Wrestling Illustrated. They do an amazing job with these lists, and it's certainly not an undertaking I would dare fathom. But do you think it speaks to like the inherent challenges that Canadian wrestlers face in generating buzz, generating attention? It took 67 other names before we got to some Canadians on the list. What do you think?
That's definitely a fair point. I didn't even think of it like that, because there's definitely a lot of great, fantastic Canadian wrestlers, but it's just, the hub of wrestling is in the States. So if you're not wrestling in the States, the exposure is not there. Like, just going to the States once, I got so much exposure versus all the bookings I did over here. So there's a challenge of being in Canada, because there's just not like the coverage, I guess, as well. Like, not everywhere uploads to IWTV or is on Fight TV. There's very few cities that have that. And the few cities are like wrestlers in Quebec or wrestlers in Ontario. And even over here, it's not that covered. So there's that challenge. But also, for where I live as well, French Canada. So now there's a language barrier. Why would you tune in if maybe you don't understand what's happening? And all these wrestlers, like, I'm telling you, I go to Quebec City, and all these people, they're so good they could be on TV, but there's that language barrier. So yeah, there's just so many hurdles, and that's why you have to try, and you have to post your videos, you have to push and interact, because if you don't, no one will see it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if we're talking about making a splash, then I think we're onto a really good track earlier this month. Championship win. I got to paint a bit of a word picture here to really set the scene. IWS, Know Your Enemies earlier this month. The card subject to change. You have your scheduled match against Jody Threat. You go on to pick up the win. The main event scheduled as Carl Jepsen defending the World Championship against James Stone. But before the match starts, Shane Hawk gets a phone call from PCP Manny, who has changed this match to a triple threat contest. Due to the last show where you made the save to PCP Manny while he was getting beat down by GCW, Kristara is now challenging for the IWS Championship. Now, you take a beating from the two heavyweights, there's no doubt about it, but you pick up the win, the house erupts, and you become the IWS World Champion. Your face told the story, but I have to ask you to put it to words. How did that moment feel?
It felt like really surreal, because like I didn't know how I was going to feel in the moment. You always think you know how you're going to react and what you'll do, but there was so much going into that. Like you said, I had to wrestle Jody Threat. That was such a big thing I wanted to do, and I really wanted to impress. We were the first match of the show, and it's my first like singles in Montreal with Jody. I was like, okay, I have to kill it. Like, everybody's looking at this match. People were saying, oh, this is the match that we're looking forward to. So I was like, I have to get through that. And anything can go wrong in this match. Maybe I don't do well and they change their mind for some reason, or maybe I get hurt. So like, literally, I feel like it was only at that moment I realized this actually happened, because even during that match, like, I was so tired because I had a match against Jody Threat, right? So we're two fast-paced wrestlers. So I was actually tired. You know what I mean? So I was like, even in here, anything could go wrong. I can miss a cue. Someone could forget to kick out. Like, nothing is guaranteed until I'm literally like at that final moment. So when it happened, it felt very cool because I wasn't sure like how people were gonna react. Like when I went out, people were chanting new champion and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like they're not like, why is she here? Because they could have been. But I felt like it was built in such a way that they were like, of course she's here. So that felt very cool. And I was saying just like a week before, like, wow, I'd really like to wrestle Carl Jepsen. So I was like, wow, I'm getting to wrestle Jody Threat and Carl Jepsen in one day. And James Stone has given me some of my best matches. Like he's taught me a lot, especially when it comes to like building intergender wrestling matches and just like how to do it and, big versus small. So I was like, I know I'm in good hands with him as well. So there was just a lot of like, wow, this is so cool, like moments. So I was trying to like not act like starstruck, like, oh, hi, Carl, hi, Jody, hi, James, like I belong type of thing. But yeah, it was very nice for people to be that happy for me because I don't think like they saw it coming. So I liked how that was done because I didn't see it coming either.
Oh man, yeah, the place erupted. Everyone was just like elated. You can watch the video back, and you get goosebumps watching the championship win by the ovation you get when on that 3 count. Absolutely amazing stuff. When did you find out that they were putting the championship on you?
So funny story. So I show up to the venue, and as always, you show up to the venue, and the booker is like, "Here's what I want." I show up. Andrew's like, booker. He's my booker and my coach. He's like, all right, I want to talk to you whenever you can. And I'm like, oh, go. I'm scared now. So I put my stuff down and I go talk to him immediately. And he says, let's go in this room. I said, oh my God, am I in trouble? Am I getting called to the principal's office? And then he tells me, hey, so this is what we're doing. And you're going to work twice. And I think I just started laughing. And he's like, no, for real, you're working twice. And I was like, what? So like nobody knew except for like very few people, like the people involved in the match or the people that made like the music and stuff like that. So I just kind of had to go that whole day like planning with Jody, and I just see Carl and James in the side of my like eye, just knowing, okay, I'm doing that too, and no one else knows, right? So that was pretty cool, like kind of to keep it secret, because like the way the Studio TD works is that like that's where the venue is at. The locker room is up. You have to take an elevator, so the people in the locker room can't hear. So the funny story is that people were telling me is that someone just went down to go get a drink, and then they said, "What? Kristara's in the match?" They ran upstairs, and people were talking, and they had to be like, "Okay, we have to go downstairs. Like Kristara's in the match," and everybody was like, "What?" So that was very cool, probably for them too, to not even see that coming, because these are my friends, these are my peers. So as you're saying, like the reaction, I was hearing people were crying, and I was like, I tried to cry. I felt like I had dry tears, like nothing was really coming out because I was so tired. I sweat so much, but I definitely didn't sleep that night, But yeah, that was just very cool, like moment, because I felt like it was my moment, but we all shared it together as well,
Maybe there's a lapse in my knowledge. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, but this sounds like a bit of a habit with IWS, because I believe I heard that you found out the day of that you were winning the tag team champions last year too with Alex Mays.
They love to work me. But actually I didn't even find out. So we found out in the match in that one. So what happened was that we were building the match, and there was little things that maybe didn't really make sense, but Andrew was like, it's fine, it's fine. And then come to find out later, it didn't really matter because it wasn't happening. But like me and Alex were like, oh no, we should change this, change that. And probably in their heads, they were like, oh, whatever. And what happened was that, Alex pinned Andrew, and he just said, good job, or like tight pin or something like that. And then, yeah, that happened. So that was also like, I love those moments because they're genuine, like my emotion is genuine. I don't have to act. I don't have to pretend, like, and it feels like, it must feel cool for them too, to be able to do that, for us.
Absolutely. Now, cycling back, we got to talk more about the World Championship. Like historically in wrestling, like, when there's a woman who goes on to hold a title that was traditionally held by men, there's usually a bit of a storyline build up, a bit of a chase for the championship. Yeah. This was not that. This was a surprise in the absolute best possible way. Yeah. But with that in mind, like, would you have liked to have done something different? Would you have liked to chase, or were you really satisfied with the surprise win?
Honestly, like just knowing the way that I felt, I couldn't really change it because it just felt so good. And I've chased a lot of titles, so this was a nice like different switch. I mean, like you said, I've had that other surprise, but I just can't explain the emotion that I felt. Like it just felt right. Like if people didn't react the way they reacted, maybe I would have said, okay, maybe we should have done things differently. but I felt like it was a nice change that in the world title scene as well. There was a storyline going on for a while, so it was a nice change for the crowd as well to see a different character be thrown into the mix. So maybe things could have been done differently, but I don't know. I feel like it all worked out the way it was supposed to.
Loved it, and I think the reaction to the crowd really spoke to confirming that was the right call. You talked about how people were excited running down from the locker room, but what was like? I don't know. Do you have any stories about like who really received your win?
Yeah. So yeah, interesting you bring that up. It's like even like so I didn't really have time to fully understand like what this meant, right? Because I just found out that day, and it's not something I thought I would ever do. I thought maybe one day I would become IWS Women's Champion, or maybe Canadian champion. I thought that was achievable, but I never thought world title. So it was like afterwards, like a lot of people were reaching out to me and saying nice things. And it made me realize that it's like, yes, this was my win, but there's so many people that have helped me along the way, that have been nice to me, that have given me advice, have worked with me. And they've all played a part in the wrestler that I became now, or just even things that they've had to deal with, right? Like women in wrestling maybe had a harder time 10 years ago. Even if you look at the IWS card, there wasn't as many women as there are now. So it was like, for them, it felt like everything we went through, like it sucked for us, but we dealt with all of that just so like something like this is possible, if that makes sense. It's like, I heard stories like years ago, another woman won a world title and the reception wasn't the same. So it was like for her to see me now have that nice reception, it felt like, wow, things changed. Like, everything I dealt with wasn't for nothing. So that felt very cool, because I know that I'm very lucky for all these things to happen to me as quickly as they are. And maybe if I started, 10, 15 years ago, well, not 15 years ago, because then I would be too young to be wrestling, but you know what I mean? Like things would have been very different. So I know that I'm really lucky. Like I started wrestling at like a great time. It's a great time to be a women's wrestler. Even as we talk about all the challenges there is to be a Canadian wrestler, it's a lot better than it was years ago. Like, I don't have to send out tapes. We do have some IWTV. There is opportunity, but you just have to really want it. You just have to really try for it and put your name out there. So yeah, it's definitely big thanks to everyone that did everything they could to, you know what I mean? Like uplift women's wrestling. I think of people like LuFisto. I think of people like Casey Diamond, like Lou Farrell. That's just even talking about Quebec. You have Alexia Nicole. There's all these people that I really like looked up to. So it feels cool to just kind of have my name like in the mix with them as well. Like to be amongst those people that maybe I can inspire people, because yeah, they're just so cool.
Right on. You kind of touched upon this, like certainly in recent years, IWS certainly has not shied away from intergender wrestling. It's not a stranger match type for the IWS. Why do you think we're seeing women in the world title picture now?
Yeah, I think like the big changes is like I was saying, if you look at the cards before, there's just more women to work with. So now we're all different types of wrestling. We're all different types of characters. So there's different slots that we can all fit into. It's like before it was like, okay, maybe there's 3 women. Okay, well, we need them for the women's title match. We can't put them elsewhere. We need to have a women's division. Now the women's division is so big that it's like, okay, we have enough people here. Let's put Kristara in the tag. Let's put Kristara. They're fine. Like they're doing really well. So I think that's a change. Like just a lot more women locally as well. I think before most of the women were coming from, far, and, they were all very talented, but, they're not local. So they have a lot of other things going on. And now there's so many IWS dojo girls. So this is our main priority. And yeah, we're there show to show, and it's able to be built. So I think that's the big change. Just there's more on the roster to work with, because, I think like a couple shows ago, they had Rena in the world title match. Like there's definitely women that have been there, but, they're not always there. So how could they really, be given this opportunity?
Right. Now, again, as champ now, what are your goals as the face of the IWS?
Yeah, I would definitely like to defend the title as much as I can in different places. It's technically a world title. That would be very cool to bring it somewhere else and make it really a world title, right? Like go overseas, go to a different province. I would love to just defend against also another woman. That's never been happened before. I mean, it's going to happen eventually, right? Like,
Yeah.
Next show they announced me versus Masha, but I would just love for like just more different types of people to be able to get the opportunity that I did.
Now, again, uncharted waters here. You're the first woman to hold the IWS champion. I mean, you've touched upon it on a few answers, so we can always defer to those previous answers. But what are your goals as the IWS, as the first woman to hold the IWS World Championship?
So, like, when I first started wrestling, it's like there was a lot of people that have inspired me, and I would watch their matches. I remember sitting at the balcony watching Matt Angel versus Mike Bailey and thinking to myself, wow, they're so awesome. And it was for this title. And then this year I got to wrestle Matt Angel. And you know what? I think I did pretty good. So my goal would be to wrestle more people like that, because I feel like it really pushed me, really motivated me. So I wrestled Matt Angel. I would love to wrestle Mike Bailey. I would love to wrestle like just all these talented people that I never thought that I would get the chance to wrestle. But wrestling has showed me, like, you know, I'm capable, and those things are possible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just never thought I could do things I can do. And then wrestling has shown me I can do more. So yeah, maybe that's a challenge. I don't know. The last teacher versus student was pretty fun, you know, so maybe let's do another. I don't know.
Right on, right on. And now, again, you already mentioned it, but IWS Seasons Beatings is coming out December 21st at the MTELUS in Montreal. Again, your championship win has already affected change, and we're seeing that effect happen right at this card. Our first ever one-on-one match between two women for the IWS World Heavyweight Champion. And you're facing the IWS Women's Champion, Masha Slamovich. Yeah. What are your thoughts going into this match?
It's a match that if you would have asked me a year ago what happened, I would laugh, probably, just like how I laughed at Andrew when he was telling me it. So my thoughts are like, wow, I have to get into the shape of my life, because when will I ever get this opportunity again against a world-class talent like Masha Slamovich again? And not only like against someone as talented as she is, with 2 titles in the match. Like, I don't think that's happened before in our area in Montreal. So it's a kind of history, and I know that a lot of eyes are going to be on the match. So I just want to be able to give my all. And maybe, I'm not sure, but I believe both titles are going to be on the line as well. So that's just like there's a lot of big things. There's Masha. She's #1 contender for the TNA Knockout Championship. So that is just already stressful enough. But now we have 2 titles on the line. Yeah, I need to deliver.
Title for title, an exciting time in the IWS. Kristara makes her first defense as IWS World Champion on December 21st at IWS Seasons Beatings. Kristara, once again, thank you so much for your time, and continued congratulations.
Thank you so much.